Now, delivering project cargo brings a lot of risks with it, and these risks are for everyone, for the manufacturer, for the logistics provider, for the terminals. So a lot of risks involved, and somebody who knows all about these risks is Karl Moens from Marsh.
Thank you.
Welcome. What do you do as Marsh?
Oh, well, Marsh is the world's largest insurance broker, but it's part of a bigger group of companies which provides professional services, mainly combined with risk management.
All right.
So it's always something to do with risk, and then we see how we can manage that risk on behalf of our clients. And traditionally, it is by insurance, and we place insurances on behalf of our clients.
And is project cargo a typical segment that you are involved with?
Project cargo as such, no, because there's no such thing as a project cargo insurance. I wish it exists, but it doesn't. We always have to, again, make a puzzle out of all different pieces. And we want to see where actually the question is coming from. Many times, and that's my specialty, it's from a liability point of view. Someone is providing the project cargo services, actually the carriage or the organization, like DB Cargo, like ours, for instance, and they want their business protected against various kinds of risks. If they can't do that themselves, because they are not a specialist on insurance, they go to a specialist in insurance, such as Marsh or another insurance broker, but always someone who knows exactly what they need. And same with all the project cargo organizers who say every project is different. It's the same with our clients. Every client is different because they do different things. We don't have a standard policy which we can sell to everyone. That would be too easy. No. So we try to make something really bespoke to them, right, made to measure.
And what is are there any particular risks that are associated with project cargo more generally?
Generally, no. There are, of course, the general kinds of risks you have. Mm-hmm. And there are 4 different general kind of risk. If you would make a category of it, a catalog of it, you have external risks, so which means outside of your organization, and which are beyond your own control. A very good example, for instance, was this container vessel blocking the Suez Canal half a year ago. It's totally outside of your control. And all of a sudden, there is a bottleneck, and you cannot pass your cargoes anymore.
Was there any project cargo involved there?
I'm quite sure there was, yes. Yeah. Not on that ship, but on the hundreds of ships which are waiting. It would be surprised if there was no project cargo on any of them. Mm-hmm. Or it could be a natural catastrophe, which unfortunately with climate change we also see more and more. So it's getting, well, people are getting aware of that as well, more and more. The usual solution for these things which you cannot control and which are external is insurance. But then we have with project cargo the very difficult element of delay. Because project cargo, many times it's all about just in time. Mm-hmm. Certain cargoes have to be on a certain spot at a certain moment. Not too late, certainly not too late, but sometimes also not too early because there's simply no space to store this cargo. So it's always, and that's the Fingerspitzengefühl, as the Germans say, from the project cargo organizer to bring these things at the right spot at the right time. And if that goes wrong, there's unfortunately no insurance to cover that risk.
So why is that? Why is there no insurance?
Because it's traditional. Because the project cargo is many times done overseas, especially for the very heavy parts of it. And delay has never been in marine shipping, in marine carriage, has never been a big thing. Everybody knew that ships could be late. Mm-hmm. And it goes back until the days of sail, of course. But it's still traditionally like that. And most of the carriage contracts exclude liability for delays. So if there is no liability, traditionally, there is also no insurance for that. And project cargo turned that upside down because you cannot exclude your liability for delay because delay and timing is the whole game. Unfortunately, the traditional insurance is not really following that. Sometimes you can put some little elements in it. There are some kind of specialized insurance which, for some cases of delay, can give you some money, but it is a very frustrating experience most of the time.
Yeah, and how do you deal with that?
Well, you deal with that in a different way. The solution does not always have to be insurance. It's a risk management element, and you can do that by making different types of contracts. For instance, put in your contract a force majeure clause, saying if by force majeure I cannot arrive in time, I will not be blamed for it. If you had such a clause in the evergreen situation, you would be safe. If you would not have such a clause, you might be in trouble.
Yeah, and that's something you recommend then to customers?
Well, that is one of the elements. If clients ask me for consultancy to look into these things, I will look at their contracts and say, watch out, you are liable for delays, but not all delay you can control yourself, so you must find a clause which defends you in certain circumstances. Yeah. I can always write perfect clauses. Problem is that the opponents never want to sign them. So that's the business. It's the market, of course, which is always right.
Yeah. And what are the typical things that you can cover with an insurance contract?
Oh, many things, of course. Damage and loss of the cargoes. Stupid things you did wrong. Very simple example, for example, is, and I did it myself, I had to appoint a surveyor in Nueva Cartagena. This one Nueva Cartagena in Spain and one in Colombia, I think. So I appointed the wrong surveyor, the different continent. And they asked, where's our surveyor? He's waiting for you. We don't see him. Yes, he's still had to be in a different country. But if you do that with your cargo and you send your cargo to Colombia and it has to go to Spain,
yeah, that's a big problem.
It's a big problem. You'll have to bring it back. Yeah. And there is insurance which covers these extra costs.
Ah, yes. Okay. Does it happen a lot then?
Well, I don't think so, no.
No.
Because fortunately, otherwise, this insurance would be impossible high premiums. But it happens quite a while. And as I also handle claims in our office, yes, we see a lot of these, we call them errors and omissions. Yeah. They don't damage the cargo. The cargo is still there, but at the wrong place, or there's something wrong with it, but not damaging
the project.
What are the most expensive risks that you can imagine or that are happening?
Oh, the most expensive risk is loss and damage to the cargo itself. Yeah. Your liability for this cargo which was entrusted to you, which are sometimes quite expensive pieces. Yeah. Or sometimes the piece itself is not expensive, but it's part of a very expensive whole. And especially in project cargo, maybe one little element doesn't arrive in time, and this stops the whole project. So it's difficult sometimes to calculate the value of your insurance you need. Yeah. The physical aspect is the cheapest and the simplest thing, but calculating what is the real liability loss, yeah, which is calculated differently, that is sometimes a big challenge. And then you have to convince, of course, an underwriter to pick up these high values and quote you a premium, which is not that much outside of the budget that it is no longer possible for our clients to pay for it. But unfortunately, when they are making their budget for a project, sometimes insurance is just what is left at the end. Like, okay, we have done everything, we give a price to our client, we subtract all our costs, and now we have this little bit for insurance, can you do something with that? Yes, we can do something with it, but rarely enough. But if there is no money, then it can't be done. And then you have to find other solutions, such as change your contract, different clauses, or maybe change your project. Choose a less risky, but maybe longer time approach to it. Yeah, there are always different solutions, and I say every project has more or less its own challenges and its own analysis of the risks.
Yeah, and how willing are customers to have an insurance?
That's not a real problem. Everybody is very well aware that there are risks they cannot absorb as a company themselves. It depends on the size of the project operator, of course. If you are very big, you can easily swallow deductibles of tens of thousands or even hundreds of thousands of dollars, which would be your first risk loss. You just pay that for yourself. That, of course, lowers your premium by quite a substantial amount. But if things really would go wrong, even the largest project operators, they would be at risk of just going under. So you sometimes have to place these insurances for liability with top limits of a few hundred millions, if not more. If you involve chartered vessels, sometimes you have to charter a vessel, then the minimum limit of insurance you have to buy is $350 million. So the amounts get quite big.
Yeah.
And the only thing I can say to our clients always is, if you have a special project, contact us very, very early so that we can guide you on pricing. Because you have to get this price in your budget proposal to your client.
Yeah.
Because in the end, if you have given a price, he accepted that, and it turns out that the risks are too high and you don't have enough money to pay for the risk, for the premium, then you have to absorb the risk yourself, and it goes wrong,
yeah.
you're dead.
Is that a problem? Do customers come to you too late?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Right.
It's of course, as always in all insurance, it's people's business. You have to get a good relationship with your client. You have to train them, but we also have to be trained in their business. We have no problem with working quickly, but we cannot turn back time. If they have already made the budget and the price,
yeah.
we cannot change it anymore. But many times we get a call from a client in the morning, and they need an answer in the afternoon. And that's possible, but we cannot.
Challenging.
It's challenging, but it's still possible in shipping and marine, in carriage. That we're used to these stresses. It's no problem. But we cannot turn back time. We cannot give you a price which you can put in your budget the day before yesterday. No. We're not that fast.
Am I right to see that there is a question from the audience?
There is a bit of a comment, I should say, regarding force majeure that you mentioned. And someone said that, is it unfortunately abused on a wild scale?
Yes. It depends on the clause. Some of the clauses are unavoidable, that some element in the whole chain of your project actually puts you before such a clause, which you have to accept, or otherwise you cannot continue. And some of these clauses are very bad. Some are really like, whatever we do, you will have to accept it. And that, of course, makes you very, very risky in continuing with such a project, because then you are with a partner who at any moment may jump out of it, and you have no power to stop him doing that, because you have such a wide-ranging clause. As I say, I can write any clause, but not always everyone wants to accept it, and I'm a very big fan of balanced clauses, which would spread the risk over all the participants in an equally and a fair way, because that's the only way that you can have these very complicated puzzles work.
Now that is something, because I know that on the Silk Road, for example, from Europe to China, it's very difficult to have this insurance for the whole journey, because it's not the same in China as it is in Europe, and then you cannot actually cover the entire trip. Well,
you can cover the entire trip, and we have a few clients who use the Silk Road, and we have placed liability insurance for them. I'm quite sure that our cargo colleagues who place marine cargo insurance or transport insurance, the insurance of the cargo itself, can do that for the whole trip. It takes some hoops to jump through. Maybe not all 100% compliant all the way, but until now, knock on wood, it has always worked. But the problem is that you have China, you have the stand states in between, like Kazakhstan and all these states, you have Russia and Europe, and they are working on totally widely different laws, and haven't yet spoken with each other how to put that in one. It will come, but it will take another 10 years.
10 years, okay.
Yeah.
And why?
Things don't go that quickly between like China and Russia, which are very imperial countries who think we are the world. Europe, we are less imperial. Well, it took a long while before we became that, but we understand the value of cooperation even between competitors. Russia and China, they see each other as big competitors, and they want all to be the top dog. And that makes it difficult to agree on things which spread the risk, because the top dog wants the risk to the others and don't want to take it himself, and take all the blame for the others, the praise for himself. It will take 10 years, I think, before we have a workable, well, we have workable solutions, but they are not always, well, I'm sure if you give it to a lawyer and have to check it, he will find holes all over the place. But fortunately also, the insurances are very assisting and cooperative. They know that they are an important part of this business, and they know that if they would be very strict, they would simply not be able to place the business. So yes, they play along.
Is there another question?
Yes, and goes along the lines of what you were just saying, and it comes in with the liabilities are often pushed too far into the supply chain. The smaller contractors end up with liabilities they are not covered for.
Yes. Yes, that's an unfortunate thing as well. And this comes from the practice, or the old practice, that you have like one big top organizer who then can't do everything himself, and he appoints smaller organizers, and he has some commercial clout over them, and say, you have to accept that, and if not, you don't play with us. So they have to accept it. After a while, these things become the norm in this chain. It's very difficult to swim upriver and change it again, but yes.
But there are some opportunities within.
Well, there are opportunities, and sometimes it doesn't even take that much of a change to do that. We have assisted some of our clients in discussions with their vendors or subcontractors or top-level contractors, trying to explain what you are doing is simply not economical for nobody. Yes, you think that you are best off, but you will get the invoice one way or the other, it comes back, because nothing is for free. There's no such thing as a free lunch.
Well, we had one today, maybe.
Yes, well, good. Good.
All right, any more questions from the audience?
No, the audience was just commenting along.
All right, well, I think it was a very interesting insight into this industry. Thank you very much.
You're welcome.